Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. I am the CHALL, your YouTube Sporting Network, and today we're going to be recapping some of the things said during Gary McSheffrey's interview with BBC Radio Sheffield. Now, before we get started, make sure you do like, comment, subscribe, cut down Case Boss name in YouTube video. Shout out to Donny Report on Twitter, because that is where a lot of these sort of quotes came from. There is some extra details that we do need to discuss as well from some of the topics, and for now, let's share exactly what was said by Gary McSheffrey during that interview on BBC Radio Sheffield. So, one of the things talked about by Gary McSheffrey was Josh Martin, and his official quote was, he knows he can play at a certain level and doesn't want to pitch himself in League 2 too early, and financially it's out of our reach, to be honest. He's got to want to come here. Ultimately, he said no for now. Now, he hasn't really ruled it out completely. From what we know, he hasn't really, ruled it out completely for me. I'm not saying it's going to happen, because I was one of the first to say I'm not confident about this deal. I think especially since we've now signed Hurst and Tomlin, I think for me, it's a formality. I think this season's just not going to happen for Josh Martin. He's going to go somewhere else, which is fair enough. And it might end up being the better situation. We might end up getting the better deal out of it. So for me, I think it was one of those that unfortunately slipped away financially, but we've got to move on with these things. We can't keep backtracking over deals we could have done, because it just makes a mockery out of the club. But we've got to look forward now. It's like when past players leave. I get fans want to bring them back, like your John Marquises, your Herbie Kanes, I've seen plenty of fans over the past couple of years saying they want Marquise back, or they didn't. Some people didn't want Whiteman to leave when he did, and some people were asking for Marquise back, and people were asking for Herbie Kane back at some point, and people were looking at Josh Martin and say, bring him back, bring him back. We can't keep, I know Tommy Rowe's an exception, but we can't keep backtracking on former players and players that were here before. I think with Josh Martin, I think it's that curse as a fan. Don't fall in love with a lone player. I think it's the same situation as the likes of Jacob Ramsey. Don't fall in love with the lone player, because look at Jacob Ramsey now. So, look, for me, I see Josh Martin going on and doing great things, but it won't be with us unless something happens in 12 months' time, minimum. In minimum 12 months' time minimum. If something happens, great, but I'm not expecting it. Now, excuse me. Fajiri Okunabiri, that was another thing that was brought up. It's never over until he's out of the building. We'd have to do a bit of wheeling and dealing. We'd love to see him back in a Doncaster shirt. It's just whether or not the fitness levels and finances are there. That's a big one for me. Now, I did speak in the Hurst video, actually, about Okunabiri, and it'd be great to see him back, even on a one-year contract, if he's fit enough. If we do the wheeling and dealing and he comes back, that's just an extra bit of depth onto that attacking field. With that, is Fajiri coming back going to push out one of our other strikers? I really don't know. To be honest with you, Andrews is only a 6-month loan deal, so once he goes back in January, if he's not extending to the end of the season, we only got 3 strikers left. So if Fajiri comes in as 5, then it might become 4 in January. That, for me, would provide an extra lot of depth to that attack. Do I think it will happen? I think it's too early to say. Like I said, it's never over until he's out of the building, but he's still training, he's still rehabbing, he's still rehabilitating with the squad. So it's still early to tell at this stage, but we'll see how that situation develops between now and maybe the end of the window. But of course, he's a free agent, he's technically free, so it might not even be during the window. It might be after the window we announce it as like an extension to deadline day. See, I might be giving the marketing team ideas now. It's like after deadline days, and they agree for Fajiri for like a year or something. It'd be like, oh, hang on, we might have all our business done, but after deadline day, let's do like a 1-day extension to transfer deadline day and announce Fajiri Okunabiri is coming back. I might give the marketing team a few ideas there, but there we go. But no, hopefully with the best for Fajiri either way. Someone asked, you can either bring Messi or Ronaldo to Doncaster Rovers, who are you choosing? McSheffrey said, we'll have Lee Tomlin instead, that'll do me. I thought that was a really sick answer. I thought that was a really class answer. For me, I know a couple of people online are, sort of criticising about it, but for me, I think it was the perfect response. And speaking on Lee Tomlin specifically, this was before Lee Tomlin signed, by the way. He said he could probably go and get 500 quid to £1,000 more a week, but he'll probably be travelling the country, training every day, and being expected to cover every blade of grass. Whereas I respect what he brings to a team and the quality he's got with his technical ability and football brain. I think we're a good match, and I know he's enjoying it here and wants to get it done. And lo and behold, he's got the deal done. So Lee Tomlin, for me, again, is one of those where, again, it was just one of those where it wasn't a matter of if we could get it done. I was so confident with Lee Tomlin and Carl Hurst, as well as James Maxwell, a few days back. It was more a case of when it was going to get done. So those three deals I knew were going to get done. I think many people knew those deals were going to get done eventually. I know there was reported interest from Reading and Rochdale, and I spoke to his dad, and he's so happy to be here, and you know, he did have offers on the table, but I'm so glad he's chosen Rovers. Obviously, I don't know who those clubs are officially from his source. His dad didn't tell me the clubs specifically that put offers on the table for him, which is great. It's always good to keep that stuff secret. I guess that Rochdale and Reading might be two of the clubs involved, but I could be wrong. It could be just reports. But no, for me, I think that it was great to see Maxwell choose us. Same with Tomlin, same with Hurst. And I think, to be honest, the good thing about the Hurst deal is, and to be fair, McSheffrey did talk about Hurst and said progress was being made. We'd made in touch with representatives in Birmingham, and another one we could hopefully get over the line really soon. And lo and behold, we got it over the line. The best thing about Hurst is I was expecting that one, especially with the finance, etc. I was expecting that one to be either a loan or a loan to buy option at the end of the season. The fact that it's a 2-year permanent deal already, I don't know if Birmingham's terminated his contract a year early or what, but because he had a year left at Birmingham, so I don't know whether they've terminated it a year early to allow this move for a free transfer, or have we paid a little bit of compensation towards him? I don't know what the logistics of the finance of this deal are apart. Obviously, the wage we'd expect to be maybe £1,000 or £2,000 a week, but at max, comment down below what you think his wage will be. I think it'll be somewhere between £1,000 and £2,000. But for me, I think with this one, again, it's nice to see a 2-year permanent deal when I was expecting a loan or a loan to buy deal with this one. So for me, I think Tomlin, Maxwell and Hurst are fantastic deals to get done. Now, one of the big things they were discussing is left back. That was one of the big things to discuss in that position. Obviously, they're happy with James Maxwell. He is the number 3. I think they pretty much disclosed on the radio that by McSheffrey saying we've got our number 3, that he's going to wear number 3. We know Lee Tomlin's going to wear number 23. We know that Maxwell's going to wear number 3. Carl Hurst probably going to be number 16. But in terms of left-back options, apparently McSheffrey came out on the radio and said he spoke to a couple of clubs in the Midlands, spoke to Liverpool about a left back. So that immediately puts some of the clubs into question. I think it's great to sort of look at those potential options and what could be the case. And to be fair, you know, I said in the Tomlin video we might still need a second left back on loan for extra squad depth, as well as maybe a deep line playmaker on loan. From somewhere, so you'd maybe look at one of these options again, and maybe in a couple of weeks we could get news back on some of these options. So, I mean, when you look at Liverpool's left backs, the ones that immediately stick out is Tony Gallagher, who's now gone to St Johnstone, Adam Lewis, who's now gone to Newport. James Morris is the one from Liverpool that hasn't left yet on loan. So I think the Liverpool left back probably was more than likely going to be James Morris. As a complete guess. In terms of clubs from the Midlands, when you look at the clubs in the Midlands, I think Ben Christine from Aston Villa springs to mind. Worked at Exeter Academy with Chad Gribble when he was there, so I think that connection is immediate. Wolves, you've got a couple of left backs there. You've got Hugo Bueno as one of them, 19-year-old, Spanish. Put up some decent stats in the Premier League 2 market. Again, would be decent backup and bring a bit of Spanish flair to Rovers, that kind of thing. I think when you look at other Midlands clubs, I think that West Brom will have had some okay options at fullback. I think Zach Ashworth I think is one that springs to mind immediately. The son of Dan Ashworth put up some decent stats in the underleague. So I think there's a few it could have been, but for me, if you want me to be brutally honest, I probably think we were speaking to. If you want me to guess, I'd probably say we're probably speaking to Birmingham and Aston Villa, but I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong, but my personal guess is that we're probably speaking to Birmingham and Aston Villa as well as Liverpool for a left-back. So, who knows? Maybe we'll go back in for one of these loan options like a Ben Cressina or a James Morris. I think that could give us maybe an idea as to who we're looking at for left-back loans. But obviously, we've now got James Maxwell. If we do need to bring in a second, which would be good for squad depth, I'd be looking at someone like a James Morris or a Ben Cressina to come in and compete with Maxwell for that left-back spot. And provide that competition and provide that depth this season at that position, and then in League, hopefully we'll be back in League One next season. We'll look at maybe a second permanent left back to compete with Maxwell on a 2-3 year deal basis, like Maxwell is. So for me, I think, like I said again, I think we're looking at this situation as an ifs, buts and maybes situation, but. Again, you never know. We could go back in for someone like a James Norris or a Ben Cressina on loan, someone like that. But we'll see. The next 2-3 weeks could tell about our potential loan options in the market. But that's the main points from the interview with McSheffrey. I think on the injury front, Close should hopefully be back at sometime in August, at the end of August. Taylor, a bit of a quad strain. It won't be as long as we first feared, so it will be a month/5 weeks rather than 2 months, which is great. Anderson is training with the squad hopefully in the next week or so should be back sooner. Barlow did his fitness test at Rotherham, so that's always a good sign. So let's summarise everything that was said and sort of talk about McSheffrey's interview as a whole. There we are, ladies and gentlemen. That is Gary McSheffrey's interview. And first thing I'm going to say, to be honest, I think a few people point this out on social media. McSheffrey's I think that was probably one of the better or best interviews with Gary McSheffrey as manager that we've seen as a Rovers fan. I think he was a lot more confident. I think he was a lot more direct, a lot more, relaxed in the interview. I think it was definitely one of the more relaxed interviews he's done. He's had good interviews in the past, but I think for me, that one on Radio Sheffield on Thursday was the best one out of the lot. For me personally, I think a lot of fans agree it was one of the best ones he's done since he's become manager. So everything about, I've got to say this off the bat, every single thing about this club this summer has spoken volumes, but has also given me a lot of hope. The assistant manager speaks very, very well. The players speak very, very well of the manager and the club and their situation. The manager's speaking better than previous times. The communication around the club feels a lot better. There was a mishap about the Maxwell announcement video, which we won't dive into too much. I think we already know what happened, but we'll move on. But no, the communication around the club seems to be getting a lot better. And the main thing they said in the summer was they want to improve the communication with fans and improve that connection between the fans and the club. And I've seen examples of that happening. And, as personally, someone like me who wants to see the best from this club, I've got, as a fan, so many people to thank for that. First of all, got to thank the club, got to thank the ownership, got to thank the board, got to thank the management staff and the playing staff, but I've also got to thank the fans that voiced and demanded change. Now, a lot of people won't agree with me here, but 50% of the reason why the club feels better is because fans demanded change. They demanded an improvement in football structure. They demanded an improvement in the way the club runs as a football club rather than just a business. So a lot of people may not do it, but I'm going to do it because this is all about fans' opinions. I would like to thank every single fan that demanded the club changes its ways and makes it better. Because 50% of that is down to you guys. The other 50% is down to the club for actually listening to the fans and doing it. And doing what we all wanted them to do and show that they do care about the club and what the direction is. But 50% is down to the fans that demanded that change. The other half is down to the club for doing it. So I think everyone deserves a round of applause. Not just fans, not just the club. Everyone deserves a round of applause for the change that we can feel brewing with the club at the moment. So everyone's going to 100% thank the club, and I do too. I 100% thank the club. But for me personally, overall, you look at it 50-50. Half and half down to the club for actually listening to the fans, and 50% to the fans for being the voice of the voiceless, demanding change, demanding the club improves on its ways. Because the way we were going, it was a very difficult situation. You know, you've got to look at it both ways. Yes, they were demanding change. Yes, they were demanding this, this and this. But on the other hand, we had a lot of debts that we had to pay off short term. We had a lot of COVID debts we had to pay off. We had a lot of debts overall to write off, HMRC, youth debts, EFL debts, loan debts, COVID debts, so many debts that we had to pay off. One of the only clubs in this country in the COVID season to make a profit. Who else can say that? Not many clubs in this country can say that. We made 90, and from that meeting, and I spoke about this in the meeting, we made £98,000. £98,000 profit. Not many clubs in this country made a profit on COVID. We did. Our finances, and I talked back in a previous video recently about the self-funding model. I put it in the back of my mind that we're expecting any money from the owners, because that isn't our model. They've injected their last money in already a couple of years back. Since 2020, we are a self-funding model. We raise the money ourselves. We fund everything ourselves. That's the model we're going down. That's the model we're sticking with. I think of it like that. And the way I see it, we've done exceptionally well to deal with the financial impacts of COVID, with the situation we had last season, with injuries, with exiles, with change of managers, with change of culture. It's been manic, absolutely manic. Did we deserve relegation in the end? Yes, we did. Have the fans got a right to argue about last season? Yes, they do, because it was statistically one of the worst seasons, if not arguably the worst season, since 1997-98. I wasn't born then, but we all know what happened that season. Ken Richardson and that terrible, terrible, pathetic excuse of an owner tried burning down our stand at Bellevue. We had the fan protests. We were kicked out of the Football League. Finished the worst record in the Football League at the time. Mark Weaver, who's just as culpable as a manager. No, he's not a manager. He was a really terrible business person, not a manager at all, didn't know anything about football. You know, when you think back to that season, how bad it was, people that were around then, that are still here now, know that season all too well. Someone like me who read up on that season and read up on that to understand the worst of times and where we came from, it saddened me reading that, looking back and reading over that. So statistically, it was the worst season last season since 1998, statistically. Fans had a right to moan about that season last season. They had a right to moan, because we shouldn't be in this position. But the step down has given us the chance to properly demand change and the club to listen to the fans and go for it and actually deliver on that change. Let's keep it going, let's keep going forward, and let's hope this is the start of the revival of Doncaster Rovers Football Club and going up the right direction. So thank you very much, guys, for watching this video. Make sure you do like, comment, subscribe, and for now, I am the CHALL, your Rovers fan and YouTube Sporting Network, and that is full time. Rovers Tired Die, and I will see you all for more content when the season starts. Valley Parade, who's going to be there? Comment down below. I'll see you there. I'll see you at Valley Parade next Saturday. Come on, Rovers.